Hello again, everybody. I've decided to call this one America, Land of the Free and the Home of the Slave. We're going through a lot right now, and there's all kinds of stuff happening, and I really felt moved to do this. This is really impromptu. I had something else that I was planning on doing on constitutional law, and I'm going to try to incorporate a lot of that in there, or in here, but I don't know how it'll go. I had to just throw up some things real fast, and I'm going to be working off the browser. If you notice I don't have the camera on, you don't need to see my ugly mug. Anyway, William Pitt the Younger said, "Necessity is the plea for every infringement of human freedom. It is the argument of tyrants. It is the creed of the slaves." There's a lot of truth in that statement. I'm going to drop out of this now, and we're going to go over here. You're just going to have to bear with me because this isn't going to be very professionally done. And I should qualify that with saying I really don't care about how professional it is. I care about the information I get out there. And I had, like I say, I had something else planned, and then just so many things came up that I had to change my plans. I turned on high impact vlogs this morning and ran across this video. What this Illinois mayor just did should infuriate you, and it infuriated me. If you go to this, don't read the comments from me because they get kind of wild, because I was infuriated when I read this. What this mayor has done, this is in Champaign, Illinois. Champaign's a college town down in the kind of southeast. It's not too far off center of the state, but it is, of Illinois. And this mayor, this woman, I don't see her name. Oh, here it is. Deborah Frank Finnan. Oh, turn that off again. She has decided to do her own martial law. And here's what's interesting about this. Right up here, whereas 20 ILCS, that stands for Illinois Compiled Statutes, 3305/10J of the Emergency Management Agency Act, and 65 ILCS 5810-5 of the Emergency Act, and section blah 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 of the Champaign Municipal Code. Well, that's code, so we can just throw that out right away. The rest of it is too. It's all statutory. So this is one of those points where we really need to know who we are going into this. This applies to people, persons. We're going to talk about that word a little bit later. And I'm probably going to get pretty confused on this because I've got a lot of things to do. But we're going to come right over here, and I've pulled up the compiled statutes. This is 65, and this is chapter 20. Okay, and I pulled them both up if I can find them. Here we go. The first one is chapter 20. Let's go here. And I've got it highlighted if I can keep from pushing the button. We'll go right down. Oh, I wanted to show you this first. That's why I'm up here. This is the Illinois General Assembly website. You've got home, legislation and laws, Senate, House, my legislation, sitemap. Most states should have something like this, where you can go in and you can find your statutes. In Illinois, it's called the Illinois Compiled Statutes. Okay, whoops, I was going to look at the title of this. And this is Illinois Emergency Management Agency Act. Now here's what's really interesting about this. When you go through this, this is chapter 5 right here, and or chapter 3305, section 5. Okay, and we're going for section 10, I believe. And I've got it highlighted so we can get there real easy. I should have just done one of these. This is it right here. In carrying out the provisions of this act, each political subdivision may enter into contracts and incur obligations necessary to place it in a position effectively to combat the disasters as described in section 4. I have to put my glasses on. To protect the health and safety of persons, to protect property, and to provide emergency assistance to victims of those disasters. If a disaster occurs, each political subdivision may exercise the powers vested under this section in the light of the exigencies of the disaster and accepting mandatory constitutional requirements. Okay, accepting the mandatory constitutional requirements like due process without regard to the procedure and formalities normally prescribed by law pertaining to the performance of public work, entering into contracts, the incurring of obligations, the employment of temporary workers, the rental of equipment, the purchase of supplies, materials, and the appropriation, expenditure, and disposition of public funds and property. How in the world does that offer her any type of an excuse for this document that we looked at over here? Did you see what this said? Let's go back over there for a second. Okay. Whereas 20 ILCS 3305/10J of the Emergency Management Act and 65 blah 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 blah, the City of Champaign is a whole home rule unit under 1970 Illinois Constitution. And she goes on and she says that she's to declare the existence of a local emergency in the City of Champaign. Okay. And she's describing it as related to the COVID-19 virus, which is causing or anticipated to cause widespread impacts on health of members of the community. Now, she goes on here and she's taken away all kinds of stuff. They're not allowed to sell liquor. They're not allowed to sell guns. She's basically saying she can take your private property. She can go in and take your preps and all the things that there are executive orders. Oh, yes, she did this by executive order. Where, I ask, is the authorization for executive orders in this? I don't see it. Let's go to this other one. Maybe maybe there's something else here. Okay. And this is 20. Okay, I want 65 now. And this is the Illinois Municipal Code. Well, first of all, this is a code, so we can pretty much throw this out too. It's all statutory, and it all only applies to persons, United States citizens. And we're going to get to that here today. 65 ILCS 5/8-10-5 from Chapter 24, Paragraph 810.5. In case of an emergency affecting the public health or safety, so declared by the corporate authorities of the municipality, at a meeting thereof duly convened, which declaration shall require the affirmative vote of the majority of all members, therefore, and shall set forth the nature of the danger to the public health or safety. Contracts may be left to the extent necessary to resolve such emergency without public advertisement. The resolution or ordinance in which such declaration is embodied shall fix the date upon which such emergency shall terminate, which date may be extended or abridged by the corporate authorities as in their judgment the circumstances require. Okay, am I missing something here? Nothing there gives her any kind of extraordinary powers anyway, except for contract. Where did I see that here? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Contracts, right here. Contracts. This is about contracts. This is about contracts. Okay. And it's accepting the mandatory constitutional requirement, blah, 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 entering into contracts or hiring workers. There's a few other things here. But this all has to do with her ability to enter into contracts and take obligations upon the municipality. Okay? Same thing here. This is what this woman cites. Right here. She gives that, she gives that. That is what is giving her the power to issue executive orders because we've got a COVID-19 virus that's causing all kinds of problems and blah, blah, blah. I'm getting sick of hearing it. I'm sick of these people. It's time for us to hold their feet to the fire. Anyway, let's go over to the Constitution here for a minute. Here we go. We should, I think we'll start right here. And this is Article 6 of the Constitution. I went through the whole thing. I read the whole thing again. In fact, I come down here. I think I've got some notes. Where? Now, how in the world did I drop that down? Oh, maybe it's over here. Here we go. Okay, here's the things that apply to us in the contract. I just made some quick notes here. There's some things we're going to look at. But the one I want to look at first right here, senators and representatives before mentioned and the members of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as to qualify to any such office or public trust under the United States. Whoa, what's this here? Public trust. You know, that's very, very important, because the paper that I showed you just now with the notes on this and referring to this Constitution here shows just the things that relate to us at all. Okay? And there's just a few things that we even really need to look at here. But the big thing is why is that? Well, the Constitution has nothing to do with you, and it has nothing to do with me. It is limiting upon the government. It's a trust indenture. And as we just saw in the last sentence of Article 6, that it said public trust. And that's what it's talking about. These people that are underneath this Constitution, that are authorized by this document here, are trustees. This is a trust indenture. Our public servants are just that. They are supposed to serve us, and they are supposed to administrate this trust. Okay? Now, this talks about the legislative powers are vested in Congress, and it's the House and the Senate. Okay, we've got that. And then all the requirements and all of that. And it just kind of goes through here like that. Okay, for brevity's sake, I'm going to go back here and look at this. Okay, I guess we really don't have to look to anything else until Section 8. Let's go back down here to Section 8. And there is a bunch of other stuff we could look at, and we might look at some of that. But there's a reason. I don't remember what the reason is. Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imports, and excises, to pay debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imports, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. To borrow money, to regulate commerce, it's the Commerce Clause. But look at this, commerce. To regulate commerce with foreign nations among the several states and with the Indian tribes. Okay. This one here, the Commerce Clause, they beat us to death with that. The Commerce Clause is how they drag us into their maritime admiralty courts and get us engaged in commerce. When they threaten us, they kidnap us with armed individuals in military uniforms. You know, we know that if we don't cooperate, they're going to kill us. They consider that we volunteered to be there. Okay, I got a couple guys with guns, got me in a field in Wisconsin. We're just right on the edge of Wisconsin. Everything took place in Wisconsin. So these two armed individuals kidnapped me and brought me back down and threw me in jail. And somehow I volunteered to be there. I went over this in court last time, and I told the judge that the only reason I'm here is under threats and duress. And he said, well, did anybody threaten you today? I said, no, nobody's threatened me today, but if I didn't come here, you know, you'd put a warrant out and armed individuals would come to my house and kidnap me again. And he acknowledged that. But it's all supposed to be a contract is what regulates commerce, okay? And a contract has to be entered into freely, willingly, and voluntarily, and with full disclosure, okay? And you can't do that when you're dealing with armed individuals and you're at a disadvantage like that. Got two men with guns. What are you going to do? You're going to fight them? I don't think so. So, I think probably we should start fighting them, but that was not really going to get us anywhere. That's what they want us to do. And I'm afraid that's what's going to happen here with this, with what they've got going on right here. Okay. Now, here's something interesting. to constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court, to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations, to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal. Oh, come on now. I moved my mouse off the desk. And make rules concerning captures on land and water. Okay. This is the one we're going to look at now. I think I might have put it in here. What does it mean to grant letters of marque and reprisal? Marque and reprisal, a commission by which the head government authorities authorizes a private ship to capture enemy vessels. Since letters of marque and reprisals allowed privately owned and operated vessels to carry out acts of war, the practice came to be known as privateering. Legal Dictionary, thefreedictionary.com. Okay, so what a letter of marque and reprisal is this government authorization to be a pirate. Now think about this for a minute. And why does that come into play here? Because these courts that we're going into are legislative. They're not judicial. We're going to get into this a little further. And what they do is they have their letters of marque and reprisal. They have their authorization by Congress to take prisoners of war and to take all their stuff. And it's really horrendous. It's nefarious what's going on. Okay, let's go back for a moment. To raise support of armies, to provide, maintain the Navy, to make rules for government and regulation of land naval forces, to provide for calling forth the militia, to execute laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, repeal invasions, to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states, respectively, the appointment of officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. Okay, it goes on to say, to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square. Uh-oh, what's this? As may be cession of a particular state and acceptance by Congress, as may be by secession of particular states and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of government of the United States. Now notice, so far we've seen this come up a little bit right here. The United States. Have you seen the United States of America mentioned in here anywhere? It's not, because this is not the Constitution that was signed by the Founding Fathers. Okay, let's see if I can find it. Is this it? Nope. Oh, here we go. The Act of 1789. Oh, that's a judicial act. Did I not pull it up? I might not have. Okay. Let's do this real quick. Like I said, I changed a bunch of stuff around. The Act of 1871. District of Columbia Organic Act of 1871. And that is this Constitution we're looking for. It's the Constitution of the United States. Okay, the original one was the Constitution for the United States of America and Congress assembled. Completely different name. They incorporated the name United States, and then they, let's see here. We'll look at some of these. Then after they incorporated it and they changed this Constitution over, they just kind of did the old bait and switch, and people think they're still under the Constitution that set up this country, but they're not. But it's even deeper than that. When Congress passed the Act of 1871, it created a separate corporation known as the United States, and corporate government for the District of Columbia. Corporate government for the District of Columbia. The Act of 1871 put the United States back under British rule, which is under Vatican rule. The United States people lost their independence in 1871. This is huge, people. This is huge. These SOBs stole our country. The United States of America, USA, commonly known as the United States, is a country consisting of 50 states, a federal district, 5 major self-governing territories, and various possessions. This is still referring to it as the corporate United States here. And here it says, when did the U.S. become a corporation? The Act of 1871 formed a corporation called the United States. Oh, who owns it? Let's see what they have to say here. USA Network, on air simply as USA, stylized as USA since 2005, is an American pay television channel. Oh, that's not even, that's a television network. When was the Constitution written? This was the same place the Declaration of Independence was signed. The Constitution was written during the Philadelphia Convention, known as the Constitutional Convention, which convened from May 25th, September 1787, and was signed on September 17th, 1787. Okay, but this one here, this act is the Act of 1871, and this is another constitution. I didn't pull up the other one. I should have. And it's an act to provide a government for the District of Columbia. Now, there's a lot of places on here you can still find this information. The two constitutions, National Liberty Alliance. Let's just go there real quick. Did it pull up? There it is. And right here they say, two constitutions in the United States was suspended. The first was suspended in favor of a Vatican corporation in 1871. Okay, Pope meeting with the board of directors of the Vatican Bank. Since 1871, the United States President and the United States Congress has been playing politics under a different set of rules and policies. The American people do not know that there are two constitutions in the United States. The first penned by the leaders of newly independent states in 1776. On July 4th, 1776, the people were free and independent. That freedom ended in 1871 when the original Constitution for the United States of America was changed to the Constitution of the United States of America. Do you notice this here? Notice the styling of this, capital here, and no capital on United here. This is supposed to be, I think the S is supposed to be capitalized here. Yes, it is. For America. It was changed to all caps, the dog Latin styling of a corporation. This convention is only useful for a certain thing. I think it's right down here. Oh, this is it. And I have something here. We're going to be going through some of this. Okay. Further, the use of all capital letters is not proper English written language. It is also defined as glosses in American Sign Language. The Chicago Manual of Style, 16th edition, Foreign Languages, section 11.147. Glosses in ASL, American Sign Language. The written language transcription of a sign is called a gloss. Glosses are words from the spoken language written in small capital letters. Woman, school, cat. Alternatively, regular capital letters may be used. When two or more words are used to gloss a single sign, the glosses are separated by hyphens. The translation is enclosed in double quotation marks. The sign for a car drove by is written vehicle-drive-by, hyphen-by. Okay, now, without these hyphens, and this is a Latin convention here, this writing. Without the, I don't know if you, I'm not sure if you're seeing the cursor or not. I turned it on, but I'm not seeing what I should be seeing. So we'll highlight it. Vehicle drive-by. Now, without these hyphens in here, this would read vehicle and drive and by. They would not connect to each other whatsoever. Let's see. Let's go take a look at how about How about a picture of the Vatican? Let's see a picture of the Vatican here. I want to see a close-up. And the reason I want to see a close-up here, can we see it here? I think maybe we can. The reason I want to show you a close-up is because there are, oh come on. There are dots in between the letters here. And this is the way Latin is supposed to be styled. And that's not the image. Okay. Let's see if we can find something a little clearer yet anyway. A little closer. Looks like this is going to be slow pulling up. I've got a lot of things opened here. It's either going to work or it's not. But there's writing right along here on the Vatican. And each of these are capital letters. And they have dots in between them that serve as the hyphens. Hopefully we can see it right here. Or else we can magnify. Let's see. Well, we can't really see it. But if you go and find a picture of this, you will see that there are dots between all of these capital letters here. Can we get any larger than that? I don't think so. Doesn't look like it. Not going to waste a bunch of time. Anyway, these glosses, when you go into court, I wish I had a way that I could show you a court paper here. I don't have anything scanned in here. When you go into a court and they've got state of Illinois or people of the state of Illinois versus blah, blah, blah. People of the state of Illinois is written in a gloss. All capital letters. They are not connected by the hyphens. And one of the things I attacked in there is I told him that his charging instrument was nonsensical. I couldn't understand it for he'd mixed languages, foreign languages. And he acknowledged it and rolled right over my rights here. That's what they do. Because it's an admiralty court, when you walk through those bars, you're walking on board a ship. He's the captain. And though they have rules for the procedures, the court procedures, they don't necessarily have to follow them. He can do what he wants to. He literally can do what he wants to. And he can even change jurisdictions. But that's not really as pertinent as it used to be, because in the Uniform Commercial Code, it says that the Lex Mercatoria is in effect. So that's the law merchant, which is what was happening back in the 15th, 16th century in the time of something called the Star Chamber. And we're basically back to a Star Chamber style of a legal system. When in the Star Chamber, the person who is being, the man or the woman who is being charged and being prosecuted, if their lawyer wouldn't go along with anything, then they had no rights whatsoever. That's why it was called the Star Chamber. Okay, but this is all about people, and we're going to be looking at some of this, and we might as well do that here in just a minute. I don't remember what I got over here. Oh, I do here. This is something that I found accidentally. It's actually pretty good. Okay, that one here has to go bye-bye. Don't remember what this one was. This is Illinois policy. I don't have any idea if this is government. I don't think it is. IllinoisPolicy.org. So this is something private that's trying to act like it's government. And this is more about Champaign, about the city of Champaign. And it says here on March 13th, Champaign City Council unanimously approved an ordinance giving the mayor and city manager a broad range of new temporary emergency powers, including the authority to impose a curfew, bar residents from public buildings, close all liquor stores, require closing of business establishments, prohibit the sale of firearms and ammunitions, order city employees or agents on behalf of the city to take possession of any real or personal property of any person, to acquire full title or such lesser interest as may be necessary to deal with disasters or emergency. As may be necessary. That's called the law of necessity, and that's what they go under. Ration or shut off public utilities such as water and power. They can shut off the utilities. Now, what in the world could that have to do with a virus? How is that going to aid or keep anybody safe? That is something that they've got in there, so they have a way of controlling people. You cooperate or we shut off your power. Responding to swift backlash and some false rumors provoked by the extensive reach of the ordinance, the city of Champaign tweeted the statement denying any intent to use many of the new powers which expire after 28 days. Okay, now, first of all, the legislature is a creature of the people, okay? And if we go to the Declaration of Independence, which I haven't pulled up yet either, let's pull this up. Okay, now look, maybe we'll go to the National Archives. That should be. Okay, the preamble to it is, we the people, where we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is from the preamble of the Declaration of Independence. The Constitution does not give you anything, okay? All men created equal, and they're endowed by their Creator. And Thomas Jefferson, who wrote this, said the laws of nature and nature's God. And he was referring to the Creator. He actually stole that verbiage from somewhere else, but that's what it's all about here. And I'm trying to find full text. Let's see if we can get it right here. I think we can. I've got this thing bogged down with all this stuff I've got opened. Really? Well, this is taking a moment. Come on. Okay. Well, that is America's founding documents. Okay, I don't want to view that. I want a transcript that we can look at here. So let's get out of here and find something else. Let's try this one, see if we do any better. Okay, in Congress, July 4th, 1776. Notice this predates the Organic Constitution, which was 1787. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among them the powers of the earth, and separate an equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect of the opinions of mankind require that they should declare the cause which impel them to the separation. Okay, this is why they did it. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. This is an interesting word, unalienable. Okay, well, maybe we'll look at that. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, And when we go back and we look at the Constitution coming in a couple years later, a year later, and we look at the Commerce Clause and how they've twisted that around, they have to get our consent. We're going to be looking at that some more too if this doesn't get too long. Okay, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it's the right of the people to alter or abolish it and institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles, organizing its power in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be charged for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. That is exactly what's going on right now. Mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by, okay, where are you at here? There we go. Than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. In other words, if you're in a bad situation, you get comfortable in that situation. That's what's happened right now. Everybody in this country is too comfortable. For one thing, they've got all these government benefits, and these benefits are how they enslave us. Maybe we should take a look at Hale versus Hinkle, or maybe we'll just go with a... We'll just go with an overview of Hale versus Hinkle here. Really? Oh, Halen. Got an N in there. That's what's wrong. Can't believe Hale versus Hinkle didn't come up. Okay. All right, we'll go here. Hale versus Hinkle. It's a major United States Supreme Court case in which the court established the power of a federal grand jury engaging in an investigation into corporate malfeasance to require the corporation in question to surrender its records. One of the big things in Hale versus Hinkle, it's a great case. It's like 2000 or 1903, 1904. I don't know. It's way back there. Okay, which one do I want to pull up here? 1906. Let's try this. Okay, I don't like this either. I don't want to have to read through the whole case, but what it says is a man owes no obligations to the state because he has taken no benefit from it. Bailey, no. Where are we going to go? Let's go to Wikipedia, I think. One more. Maybe not. I think that's it right there. Yes, it is. Okay. Here we go. Bailey, hold on. Bailey, quit it. Hale versus Hinkle, 2001, U.S. 43, 1906. Okay, that's what we just read. Okay, here it is. The individual may stand upon his constitutional rights as a citizen. He's entitled to carry on his private business in any way. His power to contract is unlimited. He owes no duty to the state or to his neighbors to divulge his business or to open his doors to an investigation so far as it may tend to incriminate him. He owes no such duty to the state since he receives nothing therefrom beyond the protection of his life and property. Oh, excuse me, I'm going to have to let this dog outside or we're not going to have any peace. Come on, dog. it's a nice day today, and he's being a brat running in and out. But that's my little guy, so he can get by with it. Again, forgive me for the interruption. But this was a landmark case, and this right here is one of the parts of it. I don't know where it's at now. I lost it. This is a part of it that is very important to the average man and woman. Wow. Says he receives nothing therefrom beyond protection of his life and property. So he owes no duty to the state, since he receives nothing beyond the protection of his life and property. And there's where they get us. Because they set up all these programs and everything. And everything's considered a benefit. Using the Federal Reserve note is a benefit. Well, that's what's called a compelled benefit, because you don't really have a choice. Because it says it's legal tender for all debts, public and private. But a Federal Reserve note can never pay for anything. So therefore, you've never paid for anything in your life unless you bought it with gold and silver. And then the state could argue that you bought the gold and silver with Federal Reserve notes. So, and that's incorporated in the Emergency Banking Act of 1933. I'm not real sure where it's at, but that's House Joint Resolution 192, and we're not going to look at that today. But the big thing is the fact that these benefits that they offer us. Now, here's what I think is going to happen with what's going on here. I don't really think that everything's going to get this serious right now. I think what's going to happen is this is going to go on a little bit. I may be wrong because of what's going on with the stock market. And I've been tracking the stock market closely for a long time, and I also take a look at silver and gold almost every day. I don't play the stock market. To me, it's the world's largest gambling casino, and it's not right. Because if you make a windfall in the stock market, that means somebody else has lost their fortune. So how's that right? That's just another form of covetousness, of greed. And I don't believe any true believer can go that route. But the thing that was interesting is last Thursday, I believe it was Thursday when it fell so big, 1,900 points, or maybe that was Friday. But anyway, Thursday, I remember, I looked at it, and while the market was plunging, silver was plunging also. And I didn't look closely at gold. I did go to it, and it had the graph looked the same as the silver, same type of pattern. But I went around, and I don't remember exactly who, if it was Jim Willie or one of the financial gurus. Not sure who it was or what site it was on. I've been looking at a lot of stuff the last few days, and it's all kind of running together, so forgive me. But this particular person that manages, billions of dollars of other people's money and stuff, said that what happened is with that big plunge, there were margin calls. And the big boys who had a lot of money stuck away from their portfolio in metals had to sell their metals in order to pay their margin calls. And that's why there was a glut of real metal on the market. They have another way that they've been controlling it in recent history has been with paper metals. In other words, futures contracts, derivatives. And that's the ultimate funny money. There's like, what was it I heard, 300 and some ounces of silver out there for every real ounce. There's 300 and some ounces of paper silver. So if anybody ever goes and starts to try to cash these contracts in and get their silver and get their gold, we could see it easily go into the thousands of dollars an ounce for silver and for gold. Gold could be 50, 75,000 an ounce. They've just oversold it, and it's the world's biggest Ponzi scheme. Well, the wheels are coming off, and they're trying to cover their butts on this. The Federal Reserve System was only designed to last so many years maximum, and they're over that maximum. But Thursday night, and again, I don't remember which site it was, I heard, and I have no first-hand knowledge of this, it's just rumor, but I heard that they pumped $1.5 trillion into the system to fend off the market collapse. And then Friday morning, the market did recover and plunged some more, and it's just crazy. What's happening with the markets is artificial. It's not real. But the fact that they would put all of that money in on Thursday night leads me to believe they're not ready for this to collapse yet. What I really believe is going on is I think that this is a predictive programming event. It's like the Boston bombings. It's like Katrina. It's a beta test. See how far they can push us. I think they're going to push us a little ways and they're going to back off. I very well could be wrong. But in light of Hale versus Hinkle and in light of the damage that's been done to our supply chain, our supply lines are down. And many people are saying even if everything were to go away tomorrow, it might take a year for everything to get back to normal. When the stores are empty, that's going to be it. We don't have a bunch of stuff coming from China to fill up Walmarts. Our medicines are coming from China, and I read an article this morning, again, I forget where at, that says China was thinking about holding off the medicines, not selling us the medicines. We don't manufacture even aspirin in this country anymore. It all comes from China. China and India mostly. So I'm just thinking that they might have to go ahead and take this further if they can't turn this thing around. But I really don't think they want to just yet. And I'm not real sure what's going on there. I don't think anybody is. I talked to a friend in California today that says it's horrible out there. They're talking forced vaccinations and everything, martial law and forced vaccinations, and we just sent a couple texts back and forth, so I don't have real good information on that. And I went to the store today. Now, we've been relatively unaffected. I'm seeing all these pictures from all over the country with stores that are just ransacked, nothing in them. And there were a few aisles that were empty on certain things. There was only white bread left in the whole store. The toilet paper aisle was completely empty, and a lot of the canned goods were pushed out to the front of the shelves. You could tell that the shelves were not packed deep with food. As I walked in, there was a greeter, and I said, "Wow, I can't believe you still got food here with everything else that's going on in this country." She says, "Yeah, I can't believe it either." But it was quite an experience in there. The place was packed, and people were getting carts full of stuff. So the panic hasn't really gotten to the point that it's gotten to in a lot of places in the country, but it's here. It is here, and if they keep us shut down, I expect that they will come in and they will offer another benefit so that we're obligated to them to continue being slaves. So, and that's what it's all about. If they can get us to take benefits, for the benefits we trade our rights, our unalienable rights, for inalienable rights. Unalienable, inalienable is not the same thing. Inalienable rights are actually civil rights. They're actually granted by government, and they can be taken by government at any time. Now, there's loads of case law on the right to travel, and any man has the right to travel. It's an unalienable right. It's given to you by your creator. It wasn't given to you by the government in no way, shape, or form. But yet, they get you into an unconscionable contract when you're 16 years old. You're not even old enough to enter into a contract legally. That can't happen until the age of majority. But they get you into this contract, and you trade your right to travel for a state-granted right to have a driver's license. Well, a license is permission to do something that would otherwise be illegal. Now, let's try this. Let's go over to, we're done. Where are we here? I want to come back to this and look at it. Let's go back over here to the Illinois compiled statutes. Now, I'll give an opportunity to show you a little bit more about this anyway. We'll go backwards. We're at the General Assembly website. And this right here is Chapter 20. We got to go back some more. Okay. Here it is right here. These are all the different chapters. See, we went to the executive branch and we went to the municipalities. But if we come down here to 650, well, 625. Yeah, 625. Vehicles. Now, why did I come over here? Illinois Vehicle Code. Title and definitions. Now this is real common in these chapters. They lay down their own definitions for different words and phrases here. And abandoned vehicle, act, administrative decision, blah, 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 affirmation. Let's get to some of the good ones here. They describe all-terrain vehicle, an alley. This just tells you what they're meaning by using these words. This is called a stipulation. They get you to stipulate to all of this stuff. Okay, let's go down here a little ways. They even tell you what a bicycle is here. But I want to go down here to a vehicle. Okay, where are you at? Vehicle. Every device in, upon, or by which any person or property is or may be transported or drawn upon a highway or requiring a certificate of title under section 3-1-0 or 3-101D of this code. See, then again, this is a code. This is not law, except devices moved by human power. Okay, and they define a vehicle. But what they've done is they have broadened the meaning of this term here, vehicle. If we were to go back to Bouvier's 1856 law dictionary, we would see that a vehicle is for carrying passengers. And it is a commercial vehicle. Vehicles are for commercial use only. And I sure wish I could remember why I brought you over here. It's rough being stupid. Don't remember what I wanted in the vehicle code. Let's go back here for a moment. Yeah, I don't remember why we were coming here. Anyway, let's go back up here for a moment. I should just pause this and look for a little bit, but I'm not going to. We'll come over to this one right here. It's living in the private. This is a great website here, livingintheprivate.blogspot.com. And this is a definition of person. Here, what is a person? In the imaginary world of legal fiction, and all commerce is legal fiction, a person is always an artificial legal person of one kind or another, legally generated. A legal person is any subject matter to which the law attributes a mere legal or fictitious personality. This extension is one of the most noteworthy feats of the legal imagination. Legal persons, being arbitrary creations of the law, may be of as such many kinds as the law pleases. Those recognized by our own system, however, all fall within a single class, namely corporations or bodies corporate. Okay, now, a natural person, a human being naturally born versus a legally generated juridical person, Black's Law, 2nd edition. Artificial person, a non-human entity that's created by law and legally different, owing its rights and duties. Okay. Juridical person, an entity as a firm that is not a single natural person, as a human being authorized by law with duties and rights recognized as legal authority having a distinct identity, a legal personality, also known as an artificial person. Juridical entity, juristic person, or legal person, also referred to body corporate, Black's Law, 2nd edition. Natural person, a human being is distinguished from an artificial person created by law. Okay, here's where it gets kind of good. A person means an individual, a firm, a partnership, an association, a fiduciary, an executor or administrator, a governmental entity, a limited liability company, or a corporation. Indiana Code, Title 9, Motor Vehicles, Article 13, And I think this is what I was looking for in our code, but I didn't get there. Individual, as a noun, this term denotes a natural person and may be in proper cases include artificial persons. Black's Law, 6th edition. The term person does not include the sovereign. Oh, what's this sovereign now? Now, we're not talking sovereign citizens, and it's best not to use this term sovereign. And I don't really use it because as far as I'm concerned, there's one sovereign. But I am sovereign above the government, as the government is the creature of our creation. Men and women created this government. Okay? Now, before we get here real quick, no, let's go here. I'm going to go back in a moment. Maybe not, because I'll end up forgetting what I was going to do. Oh, I remember. It's right up here. This is a rule of statutory construction. Adjustum generis. Okay? Definition. Adjustum generis is Latin for of the same kind. When a law lists several classes of persons or things, this concept is used to clarify such a list. For example, if a law refers to automobiles, trucks, tractors, motorcycles, and other motor-powered vehicles, a court might use adjustum generis to hold that such vehicles would not include airplanes because the list included only land-based transportation. Okay, now what does that mean for us? Let me just look real quick. Okay, so it's of the same class. Now, if we go back over to what we were looking at over here, all these things, person, natural person, artificial person, juridical person, blah, 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 blah. If we go on down here, does it get, I didn't go down very far in this, so we don't want to go there yet. It doesn't go into it. Okay. The fact that this is saying person over and over and talking about this kind of person, that kind of person, never does it say man or woman. And you will not find man or woman written very often at all in any kind of statutes. They don't apply to men and women. They apply to legal persons of one form or another. An individual, a human being. Oh, excuse me for just a moment. Bailey the super dog's calling. Slow down. No. No. Oh, this is going to be fun, I can tell. Anyway, as I was saying, you're not going to see the man or woman listed here. And there's a reason for that. Because this doctrine right here, adjustum generis, a man is a different kind. These are fictitious over here. All these persons are fictitious. They do not denote a man or a woman. Okay? So it really comes down to knowing who you are. And as we're going through all of this, it's a really good idea for everybody to get in touch with who you are. Are you a person? Are you a natural person, an artificial person, a juristic person? Are you a human being? Let's go see here. Let's check this out. This will blow you away. Let's go human. Legal definition right there. Okay. Are characterized by the ability to speak. They have a high capacity for abstract thinking and are commonly thought to possess spirit, soul, which transcends the physical body. The spiritual aspect of human beings is often defined in terms of rituals and religion. Okay, notice this is mainstream. Human beings, law, and legal definitions, U.S. Legal Incorporated. Okay, I want something that tells you a little bit more about it. Okay, here it says, the Supreme Court can define person to include all human beings, born and unborn, if it simply chooses not to do so. Okay. What's the difference between a human being and a person? That's not what I want anyway. Okay, let's do this. Here we go.
this is what is a monster? A prodigious birth, a human birth, or offspring not having the shape of mankind, which cannot be heir to any land, albeit brought forth in marriage. And this is old law. This is probably, I'm not familiar with this Bracht foal. It's some kind of a recorder for court cases, but I'm not sure what it is. This is the lawdictionary.org monster. Let's go see what it says. Black's Law. What is a monster? The Law Dictionary featuring Black's Law. Okay. Second edition. Prodigious birth, human being, offspring. Okay, this is what we read right here. Doesn't really add anything to our definition. But a human being, if you claim to be a human being, you're claiming to be a monster. And there's a reason for that. And I think I touched on this before, that when, at the moment of fertilization, a zygote is formed. The ovum and the sperm get together, and at that moment that they meet is the moment of fertilization. This is actually between 7 days and 2 weeks before what the law considers the moment of conception. Conception does not mean when life begins, and this is one of the tricks that they use. Conception is defined as when the ovum or the zygote implants itself in the uterine wall. Well, the meeting of the ovum and the sperm take place in the fallopian tube ordinarily, and it has to travel through the tube and down into the womb, and then it can implant. Well, when it does, you've got the conceptus, the zygote, that is 23 chromosomes from the man and 23 chromosomes from the woman, and it's a unique being. It's a new being, and it was given the gift of life by the Almighty at the moment of fertilization. But they define it as conception when it actually embeds into the wall. And what takes place then is that is the start of forming the placenta, which is the vessel that's going to carry the conceptus through the delivery, okay, through the gestation period. And when the new 46 chromosome being that's half father, half mother, embeds in the mother's uterine wall, it's combining two beings, combining the DNA. But it's not really, because the baby never takes up the mother's DNA. And the placenta then starts forming, but at that point they consider it a monster, because it's like Frankenstein, you're putting two beings together. And it's just all kinds of trickery by people, highfalutin people that think they're so much better than us and want to be our masters. So, but that's what's going on there. So we don't want to be an individual, and it's a natural person. So it keeps going back to these natural, artificial, blah, blah, blah. It's talking in circles, you know, and never are you seeing it mentioned that it's a man or it's a woman. Now, on the birth certificate, the legal person name is a deceased estate trust, which is why the definition for the term person in the United States Incorporated Social Security Act of 1935 includes trust or estate. Social Security Act 1935 definition section 1101A. When used in this act, 3, the term person means an individual, a trust, estate, a partnership, or a corporation. Okay, you got that? Now, you remember this right up here? Adjustum generis, of the same kind. Okay, where are we at? Here we are. Okay, person, individual, trust, estate, partnership, corporation. This is all talking about a legal fiction. Your birth certificate, the legal person name is a deceased estate trust. And that comes back again to the placenta. And we're not going to get too heavy into this. But what happens is when the baby is delivered and the umbilical cord is cut, the baby is taken and cared for. The mother delivers the placenta, and the mother and the family and everybody assume that the placenta is biological waste. It's going to be dealt with. You know, it's going to be disposed of, whatever. But they, by their own classifications, they consider it a person because it was born alive. I've got to find this in Illinois law. I won't be able to find it. It's pretty deep up there. But even Illinois has in their statutes, they have a definition for born alive. But born alive means that anything that's pulsing, or if there's any type of movement or anything, that's considered a person. So you're born and you have a twin that's born, but your twin is destined to die. It's not a viable being of any type. It was the vessel that you were brought through the gestation period on. Okay? Because of that, they use the birth certificate, which is a securitized instrument, and they create, first of all, your mother signs a certificate of live birth. Okay? She signs as the informant. She informs that you are born, and then she gives this over to the state through the doctor, through the hospital. The state takes charge of it, and sometimes between, so say, a week and 30 days later, they issue a birth certificate with a different date on it. And that birth certificate is actually a death certificate. Because if you look in their definitions far enough, you'll find born alive infant means stillbirth. But we're not going to look for all of that here. But here it is. All legally generated fictional persons are debtors by default because they are created without any inherent productive capacity. Their inferior status is indicated by the use of written styles other than proper English grammar, and or by joining the family name, surname, last name, which is not part of a man-woman's appellation, given name, estate title, and legally dead having no autonomous life. Black's Law, Revised 4th Edition, provides the following definitions, written styles. Now, this is where capitis dimitio is a diminishing of status through the use of capitalization. In Roman law, and this is all the Roman system, this is all the beast system, and we're under what's called corpus juris civilis. And that is Roman law. Roman civil law is what that means. A diminishing or abridgment of personality, a loss or curtailment of a man's status or aggregate of legal attributes and qualifications. Capitis dimitio minima, meaning a minimum loss of status through the use of capitalization. Example, John Doe, the lowest or least comprehensive degree or loss of status. This occurred where a man's family relations were changed, blah, 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 blah. But, well, I have to read this because there's something down there we have to see. Were changed. It happened upon the arrogation pride of a person who had been his own master, sui juris, of his own right, not under any legal disability, or upon the emancipation of one who had been under the patria potestas, parental authority. Now, what that is, and it's more commonly we hear of it as parens patriae, and that's the state's your daddy, basically. You are considered an infant, an imbecile, and you need to be taken care of. It left the rights of liberty and citizenship unaltered. Okay, and then you've got media, which is a partial capitalization. See, it's styled right with a capital J, then O-H-N, and then all capital DOE. This is capitis dimitio minima, media, meaning a medium loss of status through the use of capitalization. Here's the kicker. Capis diminutio maxima, meaning a maximum loss of status through the use of capitalization. Example, John spelled in all caps, Doe spelled in all caps, or Doe, all caps, John, all caps. The highest or most comprehensive loss of status. This occurred when a man's condition was changed from one of freedom to one of bondage. When he became a slave, it swept away all of the rights of citizenship and all family rights. And this is what these, I'm not even going to say it. It's what these people have done to us. They don't even deserve to be called people. They've forced upon us this Roman law system, put us in their public education system, where if you don't go, if your parents didn't send you, they'd take you away from them. And somebody would send you to the public education system. They don't teach you any of this stuff. And they impose this Roman law system upon us all the time, so saying that we're under common law, and oh yeah, you're so free, freest country in the world. That's the biggest bunch of BS you ever heard in your life. A slave in bondage, divested of common living rights, has a status and practice equivalent to dead property. And when we get in the courts, when we go into court, people always want to challenge jurisdiction. and they want to challenge the jurisdiction of the person. Okay, there's two jurisdictions. There's the jurisdiction of the person, and there's the jurisdiction of the thing. In rem jurisdiction, rem is the thing, and in persona jurisdiction, persona is the person. But persona, going back to the Latin, is a mask, an actor. So it's a fake. It's this right here, this capitis diminutio maxima. So what they're doing here, it says equivalent to dead property. They're making us equivalent to dead property, being a mere thing. Dead. All capital letter names are found on graveyard tombstones, on vessels in commerce, on corporate signage, and on legal fiction documents such as driver's licenses and so on. Take your license out of your pocket right now. Take your Social Security out of your pocket right now. You'll see that it's styled in all capital letters. And your Social Security number or your Social Security card has a one letter for your middle initial. It doesn't have your middle name. That's not you. And if you look real close, you'll find out you don't own that. That belongs to the government. Further, the use of all capital letters is not proper English, written language, and is also defined as glosses in American Sign Language. See, here's what we went over a little bit earlier about the Chicago Manual of Style, 16th edition, Foreign Languages, section 11-147. I haven't checked this out, but I believe it was Justinian Deception said that the United States Supreme Court uses the Chicago Manual of Style. I know that the Illinois Supreme Court has a style manual, and I've looked at it, but I haven't looked at this particular thing. Glosses in American Sign Language. The written language transcription of a sign is called a gloss. And like we were talking about, when these letters are not connected with a dot in between, this is really what it's saying in Latin is W and O and M and A and N. Okay? So this is not saying woman. It's pictures of letters. They are not letters themselves. And it's kind of hard to wrap our minds around this stuff. But it's all part of the fraud. So it's crazy. Remember the sign for a car drove by is written as vehicle-drive-by. But that's not even correct because there should be a dot in between all these letters. One obvious limitation of the use of glosses from the spoken written languages to represent signs that are there is there's no one-to-one correspondence between the words or signs in any two languages. In other words, on a document, you can't have a gloss and then have properly cased English. Okay? And we could go into this a long way, but this is not really what I wanted to get into. I'm just trying to get you looking beyond the obvious. And the thing that we're here about today, and we're talking about, is this crazy garbage right here. That's what got us into all of this. This governor, or this mayor of this town, she took these two statutory codes, 20 ILCS 3305/10J and 65 ILCS 5/8-10-5 of the Emergency Act, and they put them together, and she tries to snowball her way into some type of a jurisdiction that nobody gave her. The public servants can never have more authority than we gave them. But what they've done through all of the stuff that I've showed you over here, through this adjudsum genera, so I've talked too much, and I don't know where the other one was at now. I don't know. And all those definitions we just went through. Oh, here, I think this is it. That's not it. No, this is something else. What we were just going on over about persons. I don't know where I've got it now. Anyway, it's not important. But they use this, they use all their trickery and their styling, like whereas. This doesn't work on this document. This document is void on its face with just this one word right here. Whoops.
The description.
Right. This is not a document, it's a video. But they can't style it correct here and then throw in a word that's styled incorrectly. This is dog Latin. This is a foreign language. And it's not even on the page. The city of Champaign is home rule unit. And it doesn't tell why we're doing all of this, because it's taken that one word out of it. And I went backwards a little bit too much there. There we go. Whereas, and this shouldn't even be here. The city administration has coordinated its response with Champaign County, 20 ILCS of the Emergency Management Agency. See, without those words, this doesn't even work. And this document should be able to be challenged just on this right here by using the dog Latin, using the gloss right here. But it's all about deception. They've tricked us and they want us to be slaves. But we have to volunteer to be slaves. So they lower their standards on what it means to volunteer. And it's just crazy. But anyway, I think that you should go over here and look at this video by High Impact Vlogs. I think that, is this the one? No, that's me. I think that you should go over and look at this video about medical martial law by James Corbett. And this has probably ran pretty long by now, so I think we should probably shut this down. We went a little bit through the Constitution. We saw that this is not the, wrong one. This is not the original Constitution. This is the Constitution that was written in 1871. And this is actually, oh, I know something I forgot. This is actually for the United States Corporation. And is this it? It's not it. Is this it? That's not it. It's not it. Here it is. 41st Congress, Session 3, Chapter 61, 62, 1871. And this is the from the Statutes at Large, Chapter, let's see, that's what, 62, Chapter 62. An act to provide a government for the District of Columbia. Okay? Now, they've gotten more tricky with this also, because this turned into, this here, they've all converted over into something called the United States Code. But the United States Code is actually the District of Columbia. And the District of Columbia was taken from Maryland. It was a 10-mile square taken from Maryland. It's between Virginia and Maryland. And it's not a part of either state. It's its own state, but it's not a state. And they've really confused that there also. But they are only supposed to have rule over that area, and the corporate Congress that's in there right now is only supposed to have rule, but they broadened their authority through the use of things like zip codes, through the use of getting us to take different benefits from the government and things of that power. But this is kind of pretty, or this is pretty interesting to look at if you want to go in there and read some of this stuff. Anyway, thank you all for listening. I hope I wasn't too scatterbrained for you, and I hope you're able to get something out of this. I'll throw some links in here, and once again, none of this has ever been legal advice. All I'm doing is I'm showing you things that I've learned. And I'm a man, I'm not a corporation anyway, and by the way, I can practice law. The Supreme Court, the 1925 Supreme Court case says that it's a common right of all men to practice law. But when you go into those admiralty courts, what you're doing is you're going into a private jurisdiction. That's private international law. When you get a parking ticket and you go in to pay it and go in front of that judge, you're going to in front of a court of international commerce. And don't believe me, check it out. Dig in and find out about it. Because if you don't find out for yourself, you're going to spend the rest of your life being a slave. And what we have to do, and the purpose of this channel was to help people to learn enough to make a decision to come out of Babylon. We have to all come out of Babylon, and we're going to share in her sins. We're going to share in her plagues. So this is some pretty serious stuff, folks. Anyway, I'm beginning to lose my voice now, so I'm going to just say, Yahuwah bless you all, and thank you so much for listening to me. And I hope you can take something away from this. Thanks again. We'll see ya.